Hello, welcome back to another episode of She's Doing All Right. Today we are doing all right, but we're doing it tired. I don't know why, but my sleep has just not been hitting where it needs to hit, and the kids have been up frequently. I'm getting a good length of sleep, but I'm just impacted a lot throughout the evening and throughout the night with wake-ups. My name is Sarah, and clearly we're off to a rough start with this introduction, but my name is Sarah. I am your host, and on this podcast we talk about motherhood, mental health, and whatever else I feel fits into that or whatever I'm experiencing. Hopefully with the message that it's going to help you, whether it's giving you advice, giving you just anything to know that you're not alone in your mental health battles or your motherhood battles or your way of living. Life's not easy always, and when we have issues going on, especially postpartum, it's not great. It makes it a lot harder. So without further ado, let's jump into this week's episode. This is all about reasons we will never regret investing into our mental health and how we can do it. So here's some ideas. Let's get into it.
Oh, look at you now. You're all right.
I'm nursing my second coffee of the day, which is a rare thing. I don't always need a second coffee, but today we do. I've got one kid napping. The other kid is not napping, but I'm hoping she falls asleep. A few of the ways that we can get investing into our mental health is with our money, our time, and our attention. So right now, I'm putting my time into investing right now and recording this podcast, hopefully making something that resonates for you, resonates for me, and it fills my cup because by being creative, it does help my mental health significantly. So one of the biggest ways we can invest our money into mental health, I'm sure for everybody, we are just going to be like therapy. That's the first thing that comes to mind. It's expensive. I have had cheap therapy and I have had affordable therapy and I have had expensive therapy. And I will say, while I have gained something from every single kind of treatment and talking to all different therapists and stuff, I've definitely gotten the most help out of a certified psychologist. And I did go out of my way to find somebody who specialized in postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety. Sorry if I'm talking fast. That coffee is hitting quickly, and I'm also trying to do this before my kids wake up. With one of my first therapists that I had during my last round with postpartum depression, I was talking with her about just feeling stressed about making plans for the future. And even though that one was affordable treatments, it wasn't the best match. It was a good match, but it wasn't the best match. And even with that, I still think it was so valuable because she gave me one line that said, you don't really need to think about that right now. You're not in the place to make that decision. I'd been telling her about how I thought I wanted another kid, but I wasn't sure. I was really stressed and overwhelmed with feeling like I just am getting my life back. I was about maybe 13 months postpartum with my son. So he's just over a year old. Yeah, I was telling her, people are asking me if I want to homeschool or if we want a second and all of this. And I'm just getting so stressed because I don't know. And she said, you're not really at a point in your life where you need to make that decision. So why are you putting energy to it right now? You can just wait, live your life right now. And eventually you're going to get to a point where you get to make that decision. And it was just a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. And now I think back to that line quite frequently, actually, of just, I don't need to make that decision right now. I can work towards things that will set me up for either way, but I do not need to put pressure on myself to come to an answer right now. So that was a way that investing in my mental health has really helped, or investing in therapy has really helped. And then with my current psychologist, actually, I've only had 2 sessions with her, and you guys, she's amazing. If you are in Calgary or even in Alberta, because I'm pretty sure she does telehealth community stuff, so if you're in Alberta or Calgary specifically and you want to see her, message me. I will send you her name, but she is at Exhale Psychology Group, I think, or Exhale Therapy. I'll put the thing in the description below. She's fantastic, and she has gone through postpartum depression and anxiety with both kids. She's gone through prenatal depression, and it's just so different to listen to somebody who gets it. It's people, if they've never experienced it, they have good hearts, they have good intentions, but you don't understand what it's like until you go through it. I think there's that with a lot of different situations in life, which is why we need to find our group and our community without falling into this victim mode of, oh my gosh, this has all happened to us. No, we all got through this together. Okay, we are powering through. This happens to more than, I think the statistic right now is 1 in 4 women are dealing with postpartum depression or anxiety. And that's just the ones that are coming in and acknowledging it and admitting it. That's not the people that are just going through undiagnosed or just thinking that they're just feeling a little sad for 2 years. So investing in psychology and a therapist is my number one suggestion. But if you cannot afford that, we have other options as well. Moving into something that we can invest our time and attention towards, that is definitely movement, daily movement. For me, a lot of the time it's a walk. I'll put both kids into a double stroller, which, side note, double strollers are so freaking heavy to push. I will put my son in the front, my daughter in the top, and sometimes I even have his little bike, my son's bike, and we'll go for like 2 kilometers or 3 kilometers, and I'm so sore at the end of it. I'm like, what is happening? If there's a slight incline, you're pushing hard. It feels like you're doing sled pushes. So that's a great workout as well. Walking is great. Pilates is wonderful. I love my at-home Pilates. And it's so interesting. I used to do Pilates quite a lot in Legree, and 45 minutes, and I'd get through because I had other people watching me and I had a coach pushing me. And now I'm just doing it at my house for 20 minutes, sometimes 15, and I'm like, okay, the kids are distracting me. This workout's a wash. We're just gonna turn it off. And I find that I will exit things faster. So I do find that I try to get out of the house more, especially in the summer. The sunshine, the fresh air, I put in a podcast. It's all very good. It all comes together and makes my brain feel happy. I don't know if that is the same for you, but if you've never tried it, try it. Moving into attention, with where we can put our attention, I find that podcasts are my go-to, especially with before mentioned walks. I listen to Girl Dinner is a funny one for just like comedy girl chat. The Skinny Confidential is a very popular one. I think it's one of the top ones. The Him and Her Show, they just talk about kind of anything health and wellness, but they'll bring on random guests and stuff. I don't always agree with them, which is actually why I like them. I really do enjoy following people that make me question, because when we're dealing with mental health stuff, I find that we either find people who completely disagree with us and we decide to hate them, or we find people that just want to give us yeses and comfort us and coddle us. And I think that there's a good space for the comforting and coddling, but it's really good to kind of step out of our own head for a little bit and listen to what other people are saying, listen to other problems in the world, and just give our attention to something that's not our own problems. Personally, I find it helps. It does, some people, it might spiral their depression and being like, what's the point of anything? And I've been there, but I also find that caring about other people and caring about the problems of the world, listening to discussions with people that I wouldn't agree with, it makes me feel so much more empathetic towards others and therefore more empathetic towards myself, because at the end of the day, we are all connected. I truly believe that we are all part of one human consciousness. And so when things are going on in the world that makes it really hard for us to stick to happiness and like positivity, working on our own mental health does that. And when we do it with the intention, it does it even better. I don't know if I just rambled on. I don't know if any of that made sense. Sometimes my brain makes sense before it exits my mouth, and then once it's out in the air, we're lost. It's a lost cause. And the last podcast I was going to mention is, it's on the tip of my tongue, School of Self-Image by Tanya Lee. Such a good podcast if you're just looking for like self-development, elegance, but not stuffy. You know, I really like her take on things. I really like her development. She's got some podcast episodes that I've listened to multiple times because they're so good. Sorry, you can probably hear my daughter in the background. She's just playing in her crib. She's happy. Those are the podcasts. I would really recommend them. Now, this is the next one. It has really no cost of money. It's very focused in our time, and it takes a little bit of our attention. And it is probably the most important aspect of mental health. Sleep, which children don't allow for. But I have found that when I can get myself to sleep before 8 o'clock, not 8 o'clock, before 9 o'clock at night, I feel so much better. Mostly because I have a kid that's usually up around midnight, and the other one is usually up around 1:30 and 3:30 or 4:30, and then they're both up by 6:30 or 7. So I'm counting and expecting about 2 to 3 wake-ups every single night. And if I go to bed at 11, I'm still up at 6, plus all those wake-ups. Sometimes those wake-ups are just simply feed the baby, put it back, or go comfort my son in his bed, and I'll fall asleep there. So they're very like almost semi-conscious wake-ups. But when they're not, it can really set your whole day up for a disaster the following day. So sleeping is one of the biggest habits that I'm trying to work on this year, is getting good sleep, quality sleep. I've removed my phone out of my room and I now have an alarm clock, which has really helped. It's just got like a little light in it so I can check the light or check the time if I need to in the middle of the night. I do think that technology out of the room, and ideally less than an hour before bed. Did I say that right? Like no technology within an hour before bed. It is making a difference when I stick to it. And it's because I don't always stick to it that I can see the difference. I have parallel nights where I'm like, everything was exactly the same, except that I was not as disciplined with my technology and I was scrolling until right before bed. So sleep, if I could go back to my 20s, if I could do anything, it would be rebuild my sleep habits like back then. I worked on finances back then and I would do a lot of things differently now, of course, as well, but sleep, I thought that was just a thing for whatever. I quite literally said, I'll sleep when I'm dead. And why? Like, what's the point? What's a good life unless you can actually rest and enjoy it? Invest in your sleep. It is definitely difficult when we are parents, or if you're not parents, but you feel like you're giving to everybody else and you just want a little bit of time for yourself. But I would highly recommend, if your kids are napping, use that time to carve out for yourself. A lot of their naps I will spend doom scrolling, and I feel really disappointed in myself and frustrated when they wake up, because they wake up and all of a sudden I'm like, I wanted to journal, I wanted to do my nails, I wanted to do all these different things, and I didn't. The last one I have is vitamins. I've noticed a big difference when I can stay like really checked in with my nutrition, my vitamins, and taking all of my supplements regularly. Sorry, I stopped the recording for a second because I was hearing my daughter and I had to go check on her. She's so sweet. She's just laying in her crib, sticking her toes up. She's at the stage of babyhood where she'll like chomp on her toes and she's just constantly in happy baby pose, constantly smiling. She truly makes my mental health better. It's very interesting seeing my journeys compared first and second. It's really nice when you get a baby that heals your first postpartum experience, if that makes sense. So moving on, babies, sweet, adorable, but they can really mess up our hormones and our nutrition levels. So let's move into vitamins. As I was saying, I take D3 every day. I take vitamin C, I take iron, and then I take my multivitamin and evening primrose oil. The evening primrose oil is mostly just for skin, hair, nails, etc. And the vitamin D, I really do notice a huge difference, especially in the colder months in the winter, if I'm not taking it. I found that I was more quicker to get frustrated with my kids. I was very lethargic and I just was not feeling myself. And I mean, to be fair, this winter I was definitely fresh postpartum. My daughter was born middle of January. It's interesting. I think I mentioned before that my postpartum stuff mentally kind of dips around 3 months postpartum. So before that I was like, we're cruising, we're feeling good, and then dropped and I'm like, okay, we're just doubling up on some of the vitamins and watching this. So vitamins have been a huge part of mental health. So now for some ideas. If you are struggling with investing in your mental health, I would recommend you find a therapist. First of all, there are so many different places that you can find affordable care. If you are in Alberta and you are a woman, I think the website called EUNOA, it's EUNIOUA, something like that. I'm going to try and find it and I'll link it below. That is where I got all of my first therapy and counseling before with my son. I think that it's pretty good. I do find though that I think they're not super specialized. They are people who are still doing their practicum or they're recently graduated and they're just doing this as an extra job. It's very affordable / possibly free. Don't quote me on that, I forget. The downside is that it takes about 2 to 3 months to get brought into the system because you kind of jump onto a wait list. But once you are brought in the system, you have an appointment within 2 weeks. So they're basically putting you on a holding wait list so that when you get in, you can get booked immediately rather than bringing you in and you get an appointment in 3 weeks or 3 months, So I did like that. Another place is that most cities have a counseling center. And again, it's people doing their practicum, so they need you. So it's not necessarily top tier therapy, but it's very affordable. They're either free or pay as you like, pay what you can. It's a sliding scale. I've done that before as well. And it was interesting, but I did feel like I could give a lot of feedback because that's what they were needing as well. And then it in turn gave me better help. Now I'm with a psychologist, as I was mentioning earlier. I'll link this below too. And it's very specified to what I need. So if you can find that, if you have benefits or if you're able to afford that kind of thing, I would highly recommend it. It's been such a game changer and definitely my number one. Next thing that I would do is do a walk or like something that gets you out of the house. If it's a bike ride, if it's going to a playground, if you don't want to walk far, do something that gets you outside, plug in your podcast because it feels like you're in your own little thing, or it's an audiobook, whatever. And sometimes grab a coffee that you didn't make. If you can afford that, awesome, do it. We have a coffee shop not far from our house. We've got a whole bunch of them actually. And I love just taking the kids on walks and finding new spaces to go. And it's great. I'm meeting new places or meeting new people in the community. You'll find some really great little hidden gems, which also boosts the mental health. And then the most important one is trying to sleep. As I mentioned, I threw all my tech stuff? I'm struggling with the English language today. I threw all my tech stuff out of the room though, and I'm trying to limit that. I think that is just such a basic way to start getting better sleep, but I think you should try it. If you're looking for an idea or want one free thing to start, it's prioritize your sleep. We all know it's going to make us feel better, and also water, like the two should go hand in hand. And then vitamins. And I actually didn't mention this one yet, but protein. I've been really focusing on getting protein and starting my day with protein. So I'll have a protein shake, or sometimes I do a shake with some eggs or a Greek yogurt bowl, thing like that. I try to get between 30 to 40 grams of protein every morning. And then I also wait for at least an hour and a half to 2 hours before I have my first coffee. And I do notice a big difference in my patience with my kids and how I sleep at night. And just digestive issues in general. I was talking with a friend today that I've just kind of started to get to know. And she said that she has a part-time nanny and she's also a stay-at-home mom. So I just feel like that's the dream for your mental health. Like, I want to be with my kids. I don't want to leave them. And I don't want to put them like with random people, but I also want help. And so, yeah, being a stay-at-home mom, and this woman also has her own like side jobs. So being a stay-at-home mom, but with a nanny that you can be with your kids and also still do your work, the dream. That is living my dream. Maybe one day. But anyway, that is all I have for today. So let me know what you think. You can find me on Sarah.g.carter on Instagram and TikTok, as well as shesdoingalright on Instagram. And you can email me at sarahmgcarter@gmail.com. I always mess that part up, but that is the email. It was all linked down below. You can find me there. Anyway, my child is absolutely demanding her mother, so I must go. Thank you so much for listening and sitting through this noisy background. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Look at you now, you're alive. Oh, look at you now, you're alright. When the night